There we go. And I'm live. Happy Sunday, guys. I'm a couple minutes early. Don't know if I'll have anybody join on the Zoom. I seem to have more interaction and like people watching the replay. I know it's hard to get on live sometimes. And I think with Zoom, it is a little harder to say, hey, it's a little harder. Got my puppy on my lap. It's a little harder to want to join. Like, you don't want people to look at you. You don't want your computer like connected to it. So a lot of people just like to watch the replay live. It seems that my puppy wants to be part of the stream here, and I might have to ditch her because I'm very needy today. I don't know, but this is Rosie the Chiquita, and she just wanted to sit on my lap and be nosy today. So she's a very sweet girl. But so happy Sunday, Feng Shui for the kitchen today. So how's everybody's doing? Everybody having a good Sunday? Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. They're ready to get back to work tomorrow. So before we do that, come relax with me for a little bit of a live class here. Come say hello if you're watching. Next month, I might stream to the StreamYard. Instead of doing a Zoom call, I might just do straight to that live stream because it just seems to work a little bit better. Like I can actually see comments. So if somebody is on Facebook and they make a comment, because again, those are the ones I have the most watch from, then you'll be able to kind of, ask those questions on Facebook rather than, oh, what are you doing? I think Miss Rosie's going to have to probably just get down, even though she wants to lick my face. So anyway, doing on StreamYard. I might do that next month. I might just cut out the Zoom. I'm going to see how that goes. Next month, you're not going to want to miss. I think it'll be really cool. It's Feng Shui, Flying Star Feng Shui. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about flying stars. Excuse me. And it's more of an informative thing than it will be about application, because flying stars is a really vast subject. And I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the application to flying stars and, how they're used as opposed to showing like specifics for them. So if you've ever been interested just in flying stars and seeing, what up with the flying stars, then I think next month you'll really like that. So I'm going to just check Zoom, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have anyone in the waiting room. So it'll alert me. Yeah, it'll just alert me if somebody pops in. So again, if you're watching the replay, say hello also. I want to be able to say hello, ask any questions on the replay, on the comments, and I will answer them. So there's that. And I'm just going to go straight. It's like 10:01. I'm going to go straight to sharing. Let's see here. My Safari. Okay. Let's present this one. All right, so intro into Feng Shui. I hope, so if you've watched this whole series, again, when I did this, I actually made these I was going to be like a guest teacher in a group that does like metaphysical stuff and just all kinds of different modalities. And so I thought, why not repurpose it into a series I can do for the page, and put them up, because I think it's very valuable. When you first start learning Feng Shui, you might have a lot of questions and you might be confused and like, where can I start? So this is just an intro into Feng Shui, and we're going to be focusing on the kitchen. So for me, of course, I am a Feng Shui practitioner. My name is Candace Berlanga. I'm a writer-driven professional with the International Feng Shui Guild. I'm a podcast host. I host the Learn Feng Shui podcast. And one thing I did forget to put in here is I have a new little series that I'll probably just do periodically, but it's called Winning with Feng Shui, and I interview other Feng Shui practitioners. So I think I'm on episode like number 4 right now. So there's a few interviews to watch. I interview, 10 different Feng Shui practitioners that practice Feng Shui in different ways. We talk about how they started doing Feng Shui and some of the successes they've actually had with Feng Shui. So you can kind of get a feel for, other types of Feng Shui, how that's done, and just kind of get introduced to other people. Feng Shui is a little bit of a niche. There is actually a loving, warm, beautiful community within Feng Shui, within classical Feng Shui, within Feng Shui here in the US, but a lot of times it's hard to find those people. And so I thought it'd be cool to kind of showcase some of those consultants that you might not know about. So it's called Winning with Feng Shui. It is up on the YouTube channel, the Learn Feng Shui YouTube channel. You can listen on learnfengshui.com. You can listen to both the podcasts on there. And I think the Winning with Feng Shui is still being distributed with different podcast platforms, but it is available on Spotify as well. So you can also follow me on the Learn Feng Shui on all places, I think. At Instagram's Learn Feng Shui Now, and I think on TikTok is Learn Feng Shui Now also. I'm having fun with the TikToks, and of course you can go to fengshuibycandice.com or learnfengshui.com. I forgot to put that in there because it's a fairly new site with its fairly new domain name. So looking at Feng Shui and looking at the differences between Feng Shui, I like you to be aware of what I'm teaching, because you might come in and say like, well, what color do I paint my kitchen? That's not really what I want to focus on with this subject. Because I practice classical Feng Shui. And so the difference between classical Feng Shui and and Western Feng Shui is this. What's the difference here? So this is more of a Western style of Feng Shui when we talk about these colors. Although classical Feng Shui does use some color, it'll kind of, you see where it says like helpful people, children, creativity, love, and marriage. It's a fixed energy map, and it relates more to your life aspects. And so, a consultant would come in and say, well, the far right corner to every room or to your house represents love and marriage. So you may have heard that. It does focus more on like imagery, color, and design and intention, and that type of manifesting thing. So that's one style of Feng Shui. So what I practice here is traditional or Eastern classical Feng Shui. It orients the energy map to the compass direction of your home. Feng Shui is set according to your personal energy, using your Chinese astrology. So therefore, Feng Shui with classical Feng Shui is not fixed. What a classical consultant would do is, they don't have fixed life areas. So it would be more of a thing where they assess both your home and your personal energy, and then they're able to set your Feng Shui. It's not a generic or umbrella thing. So it taps into the chi of your natural environment according to external features, the way your home receives flow energy, the way your home's oriented, and all kinds of stuff. So Feng Shui for your kitchen. So why is the kitchen an important area of Feng Shui? When I decided to do this kind of beginner series, walk you guys through, what I thought it would be good to do is walk you through the areas of the home that are the most important, which is your front door and your external environment, the way your home receives chi, your bedroom, your office space. That's not really like a classical one, but it's important because a lot of us are still working at home. And your kitchen, because your kitchen relates to your health. So that's why we're focusing on the kitchen, specifically like your stove positioning, the way your stove is receiving chi or energy, sorry. And so again, I like to address always superstitions that are common with Feng Shui. Clutter, colors, should I turn all the burners on? Does every kitchen represent wealth? Should it always be in the back of my house? Is a leaky faucet bad? What about the fridge? So I'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Before I kind of do that, your stove position is one of the most important things, and it tells you what kind of energy you're receiving when you prepare and cook a meal that nourishes your body. So it relates again so much to your health. So having your stove in a bad position can, over long term, sometimes short term, depending on the year and depending on the person. Again, that assessment's always based on, are you having health issues? Let's look at your personal energy, and let's look at the feng shui of the house and see what's going on, so we can kind of narrow it down. So you want your stove to be receiving a life generating force. So typically that would be something called Sheng Qi, although the Sheng Qi, or the life generating Qi or energy, is typically, this term would typically be used to see what area of your home the stove is in. There's Sheng Qi areas of every house, or life generating areas of every house. So it translates into, did I spell that wrong? Translates into growth energy. This is the Qi that's mentioned most by Feng Shui practitioners. So Sheng Qi refers to growth, your future wealth, your life, and your well-being. And so again, it's that life generating, active, vibrant energy. So Sha Qi, is your stove receiving Sha Qi? So Sha Qi is known as like a killing energy. It doesn't kill you, but it can act in a way that produces negative results, especially when there's bad forms in the kitchen. And so what we're focusing on today mostly is that stove positioning, where it's at in your home, and just to kind of get you thinking, do I have a good energy coming to my stove? Is my stove receiving good energy? Okay. So stove placement's a lot like bed placement, and there's some rules that are actually the same. So again, here we see a place with a sloped ceiling, and this has a little bit of a double whammy because it has a beam right over the stove. So it's literally oppressing the flow of chi or energy within this space. So we don't want that. So say no to sloped ceilings if you can. Here's another example of a sloped ceiling that beams right over. I feel like these are getting a double because it's a slope ceiling and a beam. Here's another good example. Here's a beam pressing down. It literally cuts right into the stove, and it oppresses the flow of chi that your stove is receiving. Here's another example of a beam over the stove. Don't want to do that. And an example, just a good example of a sloped ceiling in a kitchen. Again, this one's really low, so I don't like that. So the next thing we want to look at is the fire and water clash. So we commonly see this when a stove is across from a sink in your kitchen. A lot of new builds have this. It's one of my pet peeves because every time I look at new homes, I'm like, if I bought a home, another home, that would be my biggest issue. Okay, so this one has a little bit of a double whammy with the stove here, and it's right across from the sink. Excuse me, the beam over the stove, and fire water clash. Okay, so what happens is, if you think about the way fire and water interact, your stove is fire, right? And your sink it's literally water. It has water coming out of it. This looks like I didn't even see that before that faucet over that. I don't think that should be an issue because you can push it out of the way. But what happens is you do have water that sits here, collects here. Excuse me. And so if you think about the water, the way water controls fire. So if you think about it, if you put water on top of fire, what happens? It's like an opposing energy. So what happens is there's a gap now in the 5 element cycle. Those Chinese 5 elements is water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. So we can actually fix this by bridging the gap in the element cycle. Well, I have some typos, hold on. Okay, so we can fix it by not events in the cycle, the element cycle, not event cycle. Water grows wood and wood grows fire. The funny thing is, this is the second time that I've presented this and didn't realize I had a typo until now. I will say I also have ADHD. Sometimes I don't catch mistakes. Okay, so what you can do to actually fix the gap here is to bridge the gap in the element cycle. So bridging the gap in the element cycle because water grows wood and wood grows fire. See that? Okay, so here we have an example of the element cycle. So the elements kind of work as so. Okay, so you have fire up here, which is your stove, right? As your stove, it represents the element of fire. Fire grows and creates earth because it breaks down, matter, and it puts it back into the earth. So the earth creates metal. If you think of the way a mine is, if you think of metal ores, they're birthed inside the earth. The metal condenses, it sweats, it grows and produces water. So water, of course, we water plants. Plants are wood. Here's wood right here. So wood fuels fire. So here we have water as the sink. Here we have fire as the stove. What we can do is introduce the element of wood to bridge the gap in the cycle. We have that fixed there, okay? So what you can do is put some plants in between the stove here and the sink. So right next to each other, also in close proximity, isn't good. So if you have that in close proximity, then you have that clash there. So they did a good job by putting some live plants there. I rigged up a picture of a live plant here. So some people, they might have a tiny living space. They might have a limited space here, maybe even like a little trailer, a travel trailer, tiny living. So just put a little live plant there. Here's, of course, an example of this. So what do you do when you can't place a plant right here? So would it be feasible to place a live plant right here between your stove and your sink? That's probably not going to happen, right? So what you can do, this is one example. This is probably one of the rare cases where I would use an item, or I would use colors and patterns. So that's kind of like your last resort. The best thing to do is use like a live plant in between the two. Use real natural elements. But if you cannot do that, what you could do is place a nice little kitchen towel. Maybe it has some nice leaves on it. It's green or maybe purple. Those the purples that represent the color of wood also. So something like that, you could just place it right here, or you could hang it over the little sink right here, try and negate the fire-water clash. If your stove's in a bad area or you have bad forms, you can actually use an alternate area to cook and use like a portable stove top, a crock pot, an electric skillet. So there's just things you can do. Sorry. There's things you can do. She's very needy today. There's things you can do. If you can't change the location of the stove, you can't, it's not feasible to put something up to negate the fire-water clash. You're like, oh no, my stove's receiving bad energy. Cook on it as little as possible. Get one of these portable burners, use an electric skillet, use one of those flat iron, the griddle things, or a crock pot. Air fryers. There's things you can do where you can lessen the use of your stove. So this is one of the misconceptions: is a stove near in proximity to a fridge okay? Some practitioners say that there is that represents the element of water. I've learned differently. I don't put too much into like appliances, because you can get so nitpicky that you're not able to actually do any feng shui in your home. So we don't want that. We don't want to get so picky and so nitpicky that we're not able to do anything. Right, Rosie? Right. So I wouldn't worry about the fridge, okay? What I would worry about is this door right here, which is what we're about to look at. Okay, so the fridge doesn't represent the element of water. Stove position needs to be in a good place within the room. So upon seeing a kitchen, When you enter, see, this is okay. I would say this one's okay. You're going to make me yawn because here you have the door, right? The door, and it comes into this area right here. You can actually arrange some furniture to capture. I'd probably move that couch over. But what you want is when you come in, the chi circulates around the room in I think it's a counterclockwise movement. So you could capture that chi and circulate the chi in here. You don't want a door opening directly to your kitchen. So if you see the kitchen, it's an open concept area, that's okay. But it is problematic, especially if it's directly facing a main door. So here we have this area here where you come inside and you're coming in, you're seeing this stove right here. This is considered a sha chi, or a bad, a killing, a bad chi, because you're literally just getting all of the flow. It's like a blast of energy there. Oops. It's like a blast of energy right to the stove. It's too much energy. Okay, too much. So having a main door open directly to your kitchen is also considered bad, because you want your living area, your living hall, the living room, you want that to be the place where you enter, because that is what collects and holds the chi in your space. And it's actually used for some different activations. So that's what you want in your door to open up to, an open area. Okay, you don't want to open up to your kitchen. Again, the energy circulating in here, and it again could cause some health issues. Stove placement specifically, I see this a lot too, and I think it's really nice. It looks nice, but having a stove in the center of the kitchen or in the center island is actually called fire. It's a formation called fire burning the heavenly heart. The kitchen and the center is called the heavenly heart of your home. And so a stove shouldn't be placed on the island. It causes it to receive too much energy from all directions. So which way is it receiving energy from? Much like your bed, it needs to have a back or like a headboard to it. So, up against a solid wall. So this isn't ideal. If this happens to be your stove placement, go back to what I said about using crock pots, electric skillets, those little camping burners, you could definitely do that. Right. Another bad position is a stove directly, or a kitchen, directly in the center of the home. Let me take a little drink. Excuse me. Excuse me. A little sinusy. It's cotton time here in Texas. We're all itchy, nose is running. Okay. Excuse me. So a kitchen, a center also. What I typed didn't make sense. A center also kitchen. A center kitchen can also lead to long-term health issues, especially if the stove falls into the center directly in the center of your home. So again, the formation is called fire burning the heavenly heart. The center of your home and the room is called the heavenly heart of your home. That's why they say stairs are not ideal in this location, because it's like something going into your heart. This formation here, it could denote heart issues within the family. So avoid, if you have a chance to pick a floor plan, you're buying a home, don't buy something that looks like this. Okay, no kitchen in the center of the home. Again, this could be something that where those using a different area just to cook in, having a a camping stove with the one burner or two burners, whatever. That can definitely be something that you, an option for this type of layout. Maybe you set up and you cook somewhere else within the home. But not ideal. You could even set up here and set up a little burner here and cook there. Just use your crock pot, air fryer, Instant Pot. Don't use a stove in that if you have that, okay? So there are certain sectors within the home that are considered luckier and some sectors that are considered bad. So you might ask, oh, my kitchen's in the northeast of my home. Is that good? My kitchen's in the southwest of my home. Is that good? So it would have to be assessed. So it really depends on the way your house sits and faces. Different feng shui formulas can be used to position a stove, and your stove can be assessed. If you're experiencing long-term health issues, your stove or your kitchen may be a factor. So just for that reason, starting with a good setup is important. Again, when you're picking a home, if you are concerned about the long-term health in that home, which, everybody probably should be, then, really consider having it assessed before you purchase. Okay. So this is looking at a home with limited space. Earlier, I kind of talked about if you have tiny living, because sometimes you don't have a lot of options. So this is some things you want to avoid if you have a limited options, starting with the good feng shui. I actually did recently, I had a client that they wanted to redo a van or like a bus, and they want to know if the feng shui on it is good. And since it's a moving object, what you can do for these if you want to look at tiny living and stuff like that, I can't look at landform in the area around the space, but what I can look at is the way it's set up, which is called the forms, right? That's what we're looking at today. How do you just kind of easily see if that space is getting a good energy flow to it and collecting that chi. And so there weren't a lot of adjustments except for maybe like one that I suggested. But here, if you notice, this stove is right underneath where somebody's sleeping. So I would not have elected to put a bed there. If you have a stove underneath a bed, and that does go for if you have a 2-story home where your stove is at, be mindful of that when you're placing your bed on the 2nd story. Where does the stove fall? If you're sleeping over a stove, it could cause things like temperament problems for the person that is sleeping in that area. Okay. So if you have limited options, bed being too close to the stove, I wouldn't suggest somebody consistently sleep there. If you just sit there, hang out there, whatever, but sleeping there is not ideal. So sleeping very close to a stove, same thing. It can cause issues. If you're married, it can cause marriage issues. It's like a hot temper. Stove position under the bed, like we just saw. Okay. So this is this is like the go-to here, because you can always redirect the flow that you walk into by using one of these privacy screens, right? You can always direct the flow. And so you can place a privacy screen here at night, There's things you can do. Privacy screen is like one of the easiest ways to redirect the flow of energy. So you can literally come in a different way. What about kitchen colors? So you want to pick a new color out for your kitchen. You don't know what's going on. Okay, you're getting squirrely again. You don't know what's going on. All right, Mama, get down. Starts moving around too much. Okay. So looking at colors. Don't worry about colors. The only time I really tell people to worry about color or think about the colors they're putting in is if everything in that room is a certain color. I saw a video a while back when this lady had everything in every room like packed full of one color. So for example, she had like silver in one room, and literally every surface in the room was covered with silver. That's when it can overly activate an area with color, is if there's an excessive amount of color. So I mean, unless you're a person that has like everything purple, everything pink, everything red, don't really worry about it. Find a balance of colors and use colors that you like and that speak to you. I think on the feng shui for your bedroom, I did talk about colors, what elements they represented, and how to kind of bring those into a space. But think of it as a balance. Like think, I have a little bit of blue. Maybe I want a little bit of green to offset it, maybe some purples. Try to have a little bit of a balance in colors and textures and stuff in your space as opposed to just putting everything one color. All right, guys. So questions, message me for a discovery call. I do the free energy mapping of your space. So if you have never, if you are looking at a space, you're like, I want to do classical feng shui. I want to be able to look at my home and understand where these areas are in my home. Is something I offer to do for free. I don't charge for that. That is so you guys will be able to follow along and say, oh, I do monthly energy updates on the podcast. I'm starting to include more of the feng shui stuff, and I might include some video. We'll just see what I have time for. But I want you to be able to say, okay, Candace says that the north is affected this month. So, where's the north in my space? This is the area I should do renovations, So that way you guys can follow along a little bit easier. We kind of chat. I give you a little guide that tells you about each area of your space. It's just kind of a generic, easy way to start with feng shui. So again, if you want to do that, you can visit the website fengshuibycandace.com. I literally have a form there. You can upload a floor plan straight to my email. I'll get it. I'll send it back to you, and maybe we could chat for a few minutes if you'd like to. Of course, go to the learnfengshui.com page for the podcast, and don't forget to check out that Winning with Feng Shui podcast. I do have a free download there. There's a free download that talks about where to start with Feng Shui. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna look at the Facebook page real quick, and I'm gonna see if I have any questions. Hold on. Let me see. Hey, Sammy Joe. Saw you said hello. How are you doing? Hopefully you have a great weekend. Let's see if I have any questions. It's a little bit easier just to look at my phone. Yeah, so next month again, I think I'm going to switch to StreamYard and just go straight live on Facebook. And so I think I'm going to try that. I will try because it's so cool. You literally see the comments on the side of your page. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to look. I'm going to make sure I don't have any questions. Let me look. Let me see. I don't have any questions. Okay, well, I don't have any questions. So, if you guys, whenever you find this, you can definitely come back to it. Let me share now. Oh, share. Oops. More options. I'm going to share to the group. So I do have the Feng Shui by Candace group. I don't know. I would like to add different things to that. Good morning. Oops. I would like to add maybe like a little weekly bonus, like I Ching readings just for people. You can hop on live and get a reading with like a card reading if you want to. I think I might add that to the Feng Shui by Candace. Again, a lot of it depends on what kind of time I have. So I would love to do 1,000 things and be everywhere at once. Anyway, yeah, you guys have a great weekend. Go check out so on YouTube, I would suggest you probably go watch on YouTube those Winning with Feng Shui. The first one I did, it was with Tina Falk. So Tina Falk was my first mentor. Very lovely. I just love how soft-spoken she is. She's such a sweet, relaxing, calm individual to talk to. She tells her journey with Feng Shui and how she started doing Feng Shui as a child, really not even realizing that adjusting that environment was changing the way her space felt, which I think is beautiful. I've had that with a couple different people who told me that. So I think that's awesome. The second episode was Claire Bosk Scott. Claire Bosk Scott. That's every person I think like this is the coolest person I've talked to. I think that was all of these ladies because they're really amazing. But Claire Bosk Scott, she has a mystery shopping company. She talks about how she incorporates customer service with her brand called Biz Shui. And so adding Feng Shui to the client and the customer experience. That's a really cool listen. I would go check that out. The third one, let me think here, was Maria Calmia. Maria Calmia. I'm sorry, I always call her Maria. I think it's because it's the IA at the end. Her name's Maureen. Maureen Colomia. She's a really sweet consultant. She has she's written books. Claire Boscott has written books. And so she works a lot with biophilic design and bringing nature into a space. So go check out that interview. It's interview number 3. And number 4, coming up this week, is an interview with a consultant named Wendy Yaching. Wendy, she has a space or a Feng Shui. Her business is called Healing Spaces Caribbean. And just watching the interview and listening to it, so relaxing because the setting behind her is beautiful. So if you like that tropical kind of feel, you can see the giant, trees behind her swaying in the wind. You can hear the wind blowing, and you can hear birds chirping behind her. It's just a beautiful, beautiful setting that she has. So if you just want to listen to a nice, sweet, calm interview, she talks about how she went from her life as a former airline captain to doing feng shui. So again, we just have such a variety of practitioners. So go check that out. Go check that out. It's available on YouTube. Wendy's interview will be up tomorrow, and it is available on Spotify for now. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys next month for Flying Stars.